Whilst we're all reeling from the unexpected announcement of Galactic Paragons, so hot off the wheels on first contact, the first dev diary describing how the new systems work has dropped. And oh boy, is it a doozy. And before we dive in, I am just going to say this right now, that this is going to be up there together with Utopia in terms of expansions that a player needs. Even more than Distant Stars. Yeah, that's right, and that's pretty big coming from me. Now, I want to preface this as well, that this is coming out on May 9th, which is not that far away, which also means that dev diaries are going to be very chunky. Anyway, let's dive into the magical world that is the complete leader rework. So there's going to be a soft cap for leaders. It's very similar to fleet power as well as stations. You can go over this cap. You'll be hit with a bunch of negative modifiers that scales the more you go over it. But if you want to have more leaders in your empire, then yeah, you can do that. But you may not be able to fill all the positions that are available, which means that you'll have to force yourself to pick what you want to focus on. From seeing some of the screenshots here, you should probably be pretty glad about that, because of the amount of leader detail that is here. It's pretty crazy, and I don't think you want to be in a position where you have 120 different leaders roaming around. So that cap is looking to be pretty useful. Also, you no longer have 3 researchers anymore for all of your science. It's now just one person. Otherwise, of course, you end up with so many scientists that would just add to that leader cap. But again, you can just go over it if you want to. It is, in fact, a suggestion. Leaders have gotten a lot more detail, to the point that they're basically characters now within your empire. And as you can see here, a leader has traits, experience levels, age, ethics, planets of origins, as well as their previous job. There is a lot of additional information here that we did not have before, and it's just so good to see more stuff for role players in this regard. Why would an admiral that's leading a fleet not want to defend their own homeworld more than, say, another planet, especially if you're playing in a super wide empire? There's some excellent roleplay potential here, but of course the screen has changed as well, and from a UX point of view, that's very useful. But of course that is not all. The entire leveling system for leaders has changed as well, whereas previously you would get a flat bonus with each leader level that would generally apply to your empire. Now, every 2 levels the leader will get a bonus, plus a fresh trait. Now, apparently when you own just vanilla, this trait is randomized, but if you have Galactic Paragons, you can directly choose what trait the leader receives. Obviously, this is an incredibly powerful function, and it allows you to basically shape your leaders at your will, depending, of course, what traits are available at that moment in time. Level 4, you get to further specialize your leaders with veteran traits. The example that we're given here is a scientist that can make a leader an explorer, an analyst, or a researcher. Each category likely, probably, has traits attached to it to make the leader even better in these categories. Explorers are probably going to be less useful in the late game, though, especially considering the entire galaxy has been discovered. Of course, some dig sites pop up here and there, but what are you going to do about that? Analysts boost research, assisting, and researchers are for councils, but we'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. If somehow you manage to keep your leaders alive till level 8, which is something that doesn't happen very often anymore, they'll get a special trait called a Destiny, which look like some crazy strong specializations. The example that we're given here is a governor that will get more happiness on a planet the more species there are on that world. I see no issues with this whatsoever, and my prisoners with jobs are going to be so happy doing their work because there's so many different ones of them. Now, you can get more special destiny traits through events, but considering only scientists encounter these, I expect these to be only kind of applied to them. There are also some negative traits that leaders can pick up over time, but these are apparently generated rather randomly, which could be a little bit annoying, and you kind of will have to roll the dice on these, which is something I'm not the biggest fan of, but it is what it is. But yeah, there are so many traits. Apparently the expansion has more than 700 different ones, which apparently does include tiered versions. So let's say factory worker level 2 or something along those lines, which does remove the proper official count significantly, but you should still be looking at like 100, 200 traits in total for all your leaders, which is completely insane. But wait, there is more. Leaders are cool, they can get even better, but leaders can now also serve on an Empire Council together with the ruler of your nation, and the roles of the head researcher and the minister of defense. This is a vanilla feature apparently, and everybody will have access to this. However, if you decide to pick up Galactic Paragons, then you'll be able to unlock even more positions, and every single one of those is based on the civics that your empire is running. Essentially, every single civic will have its own council spot with its own unique names, as well as applying unique bonuses to your empire. So if you own all the Stellaris content, it means that there is over 90 different unique council positions that you can get, each with their own different ruler bonuses that can be applied to your empire. And on top of that, authorities will also have their own unique bonuses as well for the leaders. For instance, emperors will generate more power projection the higher level they get. And the bonuses for the council position, they scale with experience of the ruler. So it's not just a flat bonus that you get by default. No, the more experience a ruler gets, the higher the bonus gets, which is completely insane. And you want to keep your rulers alive for a long, long time, which basically means that Venerable may actually be a useful trait now. So that's very nice. But wait. There is more. Leaders can also generate a special council trait that are only active if you're on the council itself, which means that you can build a leader as a super counselor, which then apply bonuses globally onto your empire as long as they're sitting on the council. But what does the council do, though? Well, they apply these things called agendas, which is basically a similar system to the galactic community's voting system, except these votes are only active for about 10 years, plus you get like a small upfront bonus before it becomes active. Now, the example that we're given here is military buildup, which has an initial reduction to ship costs. However, once it quote-unquote launches, the bonus spikes up, and basically it will be active for 10 years, as I already mentioned, and it does take a little bit of paperwork needed to get sorted, as well as stamped, hence the ramp up period. This period can apparently also be reduced by having more counselors available or having higher XP levels on your council itself, which is also very, very nice. You get a few councils, you get a few agendas at the start of the game, and are attached to your ethics. However, if you own Galactic Paragons, you will get a new agenda every single time you unlock a tradition tree. So basically, there's a potential to go wide with your traditions first before finishing them to get some powerful types of these agendas at the start of the game. Whether or not that's going to be meta is like a whole different question. I don't know how strong these agendas are going to be, but in general, they are basically, from what I can see, super edicts that do not cost any unity. But yeah. There's also a new focused tradition tree called Aptitude, which is focused on leaders in general. What it does, we do not know. Obviously, probably experience increases or additional leader levels and that sort of stuff, or maybe even more traits. Who does we know, but we'll see more about that in the future. Gestalts kind of have a council of sorts, except they're already part of the whole, if that makes any sense. Basically, you've got these elements of the gestalts of the hive mind and the robots, and they cannot die, they just get better over time. There's not a lot of information about this, and the Death Diary kind of glances over this. Hive minds do need a lot of love. They haven't been really touched since Utopia all that much, but yeah, we need to wait to dig a little bit deeper into this topic, because I know a lot of people like playing with hive minds, and not a love is being given to them in the meantime, so yeah. Speaking of other leaders, the ruler, the one you start off with in the start of the game, previously you would start the game with a ruler trait already assigned, and this would be randomized. That's no longer going to be the case. You'll be able to pick a trait for your ruler during Empire setup. So that's nice. That's nifty. I like that. More min-maxy stuff going on there. More potential role-playing, looking at the background of your leader. Where did they come from? Did they come up from an uprising or something like that? Were they just a lowly dock worker at some point? Who knows? But yeah, every single little thing helps here, and I have been known to re-roll my games just to get a good leader trait. I'm sure speedrunners would like this as well. Not that Stellaris is the biggest speedrunning game, but you get the general gist. Aside from that, there's also a few changes on how governors work. As long as a leader sits in the capital of a sector, which is also going to change, by the way, with the new sector editor, but that's a different story, then their bonuses will apply to all the planets in that sector. However, you can overrule that bonus by putting a separate governor on a specific planet within that sector. So let's say that you have a sector with a lot of agri-worlds, and you have a governor who just has a lot of agri bonuses that apply to the entire sector, but there also just happens to be one world in that place that has a lot of mining going on, and those bonuses do not apply because, it's an agricultural place. You can place a specific governor on that planet that can apply mineral bonuses to that world, if you want to. It does overrule the other bonuses, but it helps specializing planets within sectors themselves. Just remember that there is a soft cap for leaders, so that's something you need to keep in mind. Wow, that is a lot of stuff, and I'm looking forward to this. This is great. It's Crusader Kings in space. I love it. There's a council, there's leaders, they got jobs, names, histories. That's awesome. Of course, it's not nearly as in-depth as Crusader Kings ever was, but from my perspective, if all this stuff pans out really, really well within the game, then Galactic Paragons is an instant S-tier expansion together with Utopia. Mainly because it just adds so much mechanical, foundational content. Not necessarily just game content through events, etc. like that. That's where Distant Stars comes in. But wow, this is ridiculous. I love everything about this. I don't know what the price of this is. I need to take a look at that. So, obviously it does kind of depends on things. But if you want to get the most out of your empire in terms of like mechanical bonuses, then Galactic Paragons does look like an S-tier expansion right off the get-go. It just seems that good. It's actually ridiculous. Far more than Nemesis or First Contact ever was. That's insane. So what do you think? Crusader Kings in space? New leaders? Is this Stellaris 4.0 with the leader rework? Let me know in the comments below. In the meantime, though, I'm going to log off here. Thank you so much for my patrons. And until next time, take good care of yourselves. And, of course, build those leaders, because the council is waiting.